as John mentioned, Matt Tavis, you're correct. I was actually one of the first SIs on AWS. I've been with Amazon a little over 6 years actually in total. Joined AWS when there were no services, so watched it grow up. It's been an exciting journey so far. And what I'd like to talk to you today about is sort of how this plays out, this storage paradigm. You start to see some of our partners in the space, but just how this makes your life easier, how this becomes an opportunity for you to change how you do storage today and get really easy access to a highly durable, highly available cloud offering behind the scenes with very little effort in many cases for your infrastructure. So with that, actually, where's the clicker? There it is. Excellent. I have to, obviously I have to start with the classic where are we in this whole picture diagram. Fundamentally, storage is what we've been talking about today. Obviously, it's a storage event. It's an important topic for many enterprises, most enterprises. It's one of our core pillars. So when you look at the AWS platform as a whole, storage is a core pillar for us. And you see I've highlighted in orange there, storage is a key area for us, both whether it be S3, our blob storage, or object storage service, EBS, our block storage or network attached drives that you can mount on EC2 instances, our import-export, service, which allows you to mail in disks. The sneaker net is alive and well. You can mail us data. We can mail it back to you. The Postal Service can help out there. Or even our storage gateway product, which is one of many, offerings that make integration with S3 that much easier. This fits into a much larger framework when we look at the AWS platform as a whole. To the left, we have our compute offering, which is really a core, servers on-demand processing capability. You can imagine once you're in that storage space, you can leverage that, compute to go ahead and process that storage should be needed. And then on the other side of the storage block, we have database, which, the way to think about that is really structured storage. So, we have, obviously, we've been spending a lot of time talking about S3 and how to integrate with that particular service. But on the flip side of that, we also have many structured storage offerings, things like RDS, which is a managed relational database service to allow you to go ahead and, hand off the backup and maintenance and patching of the database to AWS and get an engine like SQL Server or Oracle or MySQL available to you. Or even DynamoDB if you're interested in moving to the NoSQL space. So, these are some of our core pillars that fit into the platform. And I'll talk a lot about some of the opportunities, or a little bit of some of these opportunities later on in this presentation about once you're in that orange box, where can you go from there, kind of thing. But this is the big picture, if you will, of AWS as a whole. And as John mentioned in the intro, obviously there's lots of different types of enterprise storage today that exist, whether it be file, block, archive, backup, disaster recovery, real-time applications that are backing up to various systems inside your organization. And the next generation opportunity is really to sort of blend that top level, existing footprint that you have today with a cloud-based offering like S3 behind the scenes. And there's lots of ways to do that. And that box in the middle there, that gray box, as well as the direct connects and the web services APIs, are really how you can hook those up. And so the goal here is to be able to build a hybrid offering right away, to go from, hey, I've got an existing commitment and investment in my infrastructure. I already have to, store and back up a lot of things today. How do I leverage the cloud in an easy way? How do I integrate quickly into that? And that's really where this, the dotted lines, connecting your existing footprint to S3 and the AWS platform is really going to come into play. And that's where you get that first step, if you will, in many cases with some of our customers into the cloud, is through this storage interconnect, this connection point. Now, if you followed sort of the history of AWS and S3, you'll sort of know sort of where it started. HTTP-based access. It was a brand new paradigm. It was a blob store. It wasn't necessarily something people were incredibly familiar with when it came out, but it was obviously connected with a lot of folks right away. And a lot of folks jumped in immediately in this left-hand space and saying, well, great, I'm going to start building code. I'm going to write some new code to integrate directly with S3. I'm going to use HTTP calls to pump my data into S3 for backup. I'll encrypt it myself. I'll store it up there. And we made that available day one. That was really that core set of SDKs and libraries that were out there to make it happen for you. What we're seeing happen more and more is this plug-and-play model on the right-hand side. Right? It's now become, well, that's great. I love the fact that there's an HTTP API, that my data can be accessible around the internet, around the world by just simply, making a web, based API call. I can pump that in there. But fundamentally, there's actually a lot of activity really in this plug-and-play space. How can I take my existing infrastructure, my existing tools, my existing systems, and make them leverage this S3 platform without having to do a lot of coding, without having to write new things, without just integrating with existing products that I understand. I don't want to talk HTTP, I want to talk iSCSI or CIFS or NFS, right? How do you make that happen? And that's really where, you know, the focus of today has been a lot about, which is what are the opportunities in this space, you know, to make that integration seamless and plug and play, so you're not having to think about how to write code or integrate with a brand new service. However, you do get access, you know, to that cloud-based storage. Here's a quick example of how that might play out. What does that look like? You know, when you think about, I'm gonna integrate with this service, that's fantastic, but what does this look like architecturally? How is this all gonna hang together, if you will? You know, you'll see down in the bottom left there, you know, your corporate data center, and what you're really doing is saying, I want to introduce a storage gateway or storage gateways, you know, various products, you know, from the partner ecosystem or even our own storage gateway product. And what it's going to do is automatically take care of that backup, you know, sending data offsite, backing it up into S3, recovering it should it be necessary. You get a lot of really nice advantages to something like this. And the biggest, you know, piece is obviously you can start reducing that footprint. Instead of having to run, you know, multiple sets of backup or backup, you know, systems across multiple data centers in multiple locations, you can replace a lot of that with, you know, a simple storage gateway device with some local caching to provide local access, but yet at the same time providing the high durability. So you're not thinking about having to run that across multiple data centers yourself. You're going to get that through that integration. Another piece here is really about combining, you know, production, archive, backup, DR. As we saw, there's a whole bunch of different, you know, storage and backup solutions that are in place for various application types. Well, you know, one of the nice pieces here is that you can actually unify a lot of that, depending on, you know, the products that you're choosing or what your needs are, into a small subset or even simple single devices that are actually going to make this kind of tight integration and access to a highly durable store fairly basic to set up and configure. And of course, one of the big wins here is the durability aspect of S3. It's built around an 11 nines of durability model, and what that really means is if you had, say, 10,000 objects in S3, it would take 10 million years to lose one, right? It's a fairly long time frame. You can all wait around to find out if that happens. But you know, fundamentally, that's what the architecture is built around. You're getting within a region for S3, and Jim will spend more time talking about, I'm sure, in a few talks here. Within a region in S3, you're getting multiple replicas. We're actually doing detection of bit rot along the copies. We're separating that data across multiple data centers for high durability. So you're really getting that as just a quick value add through a simple, you know, integration point right there. On top of that, in addition to, you know, just those core capabilities, you're getting a lot of advanced efficiency technologies baked into this. We talked about caching. A lot of these gateway devices obviously will have a whole bunch of internal storage, so you can have still quick access to the data. That's key. But on top of that, you're going to get that data replicated and backed up automatically into S3. So you're getting the best of both worlds. It's accessible locally, you know, from a caching perspective, but it also is then highly durable offsite in another location for durability purposes. On top of that, you're going to get deduplication in some of the product suite. You can get compression, get WAN acceleration. So a lot of those opportunities to make this, you know, thing that seems far away actually seem close and still meet your security and compliance regulations around, you know, encryption of the data, around, you know, you managing those keys, and also even around optimization of storage for deduplication, are all baked into, you know, many of these devices that are out there. And of course, enterprise grade security. You know, many of these devices support a variety of ciphers and encryption protocols and technologies. So you really have a lot of options there to control what encryption is applied to the data. You can manage those keys yourself as opposed to giving up that control. So you have full control of the encryption technologies as well as even the keys themselves. So you know that you own that data, you manage that data, you can protect that data when you need to. And a big piece of this is, in fact, and I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end, which is the idea that you can even use this as a way to reduce overall DR costs as well. So if you think about it now, you're not necessarily keeping a secondary set of drives, a secondary storage network in another data center to back things up. You're just pumping that into S3, and then if you need to recover from that, you can recover into that existing data center or a separate data center through a gateway device, or even actually recovering into AWS region directly as an option as well. So definitely another key piece of cost savings over there. And of course, if you don't like tape, you can get rid of tape. It's a nice thing. I don't have any tape personally. So. As an example, Symantec obviously probably talked about net backup, I'm guessing, earlier in their discussion, but this is an example of how this might play out, right? You can see there's multiple physical virtual servers in an environment. You're bringing in an existing product suite or a partner you may already be working with, and essentially dropping in a new device, a new capability, or even expanding an existing capability to integrate directly into this multi-regional, worldwide kind of platform. So it's definitely a good opportunity here to just sort of jump right in and take advantage of the investments you've already made, or even expand on a relationship you might even already have in some cases. Another key piece customers talk about when they think about backup, they go, well, that's great, but I'm thinking about application level backup. How do I then integrate with my direct within that application? Can I talk to S3 for that? And that's another whole side of the ecosystem as well, where many products and technologies actually use S3 as a target backup location. A great example of this is the Oracle RMAN integration. So with Oracle, you can literally target S3 as a secure backup location. And then directly from your on-site Oracle database, you can have an encrypted, protected, secure backup being automatically created by Oracle as part of the RMAN product, which is then backed up to S3 as an off-site location. So it doesn't necessarily, using or leveraging the S3 storage platform isn't always about a specific device. Sometimes it's even just a piece of technology and an existing architecture you have in the enterprise today. So definitely lots of opportunities there to sort of see that as a way to jump into the cloud. Obviously, if you were here for the morning, which I'm hoping you were, you saw Bill's great talk on security. This is just that reminder that, hey, people always ask it, but is my data secure? Is it protected? As I mentioned before, with many of these products, you control the encryption, right? So you can control how it's encrypted. You can control key management. You can actually own that piece. So that's actually, obviously how you protect your data. On the flip side, then, we do all that work around ensuring that the infrastructure is protected, that the way we manage the physical data centers is actually up to snuff and standards. And we provide a variety of certifications that we build out and continue to maintain to ensure that, that our data centers meet those stringent specifications and actually will be able to support your complex enterprise security and regulatory compliance requirements. So that's just sort of that quick reminder that it's even though it's not necessarily in your data center, it's still in your control, and we're doing a lot of the work to make sure it's actually protected in a way that's in line with your enterprise grade security standards. So, what are some of the reasons, like why might you go after this? There's a whole bunch of varieties, based on whatever storage technology you might be working with or storage area you might be focused on. So whether it be primary block storage, you can reduce your overall SAN footprint, is an opportunity there. Whether it's file storage, you can reduce your NAS footprint, right? Again, it's potentially about reducing footprint overall, reducing the amount of servers that you're actually having to take care of and feed, if you will. On the archival storage, you can even eliminate architecture and hardware, software in some cases, where you literally, instead of having to target a specific entry point, like with the Oracle RMAN scenario, you can just go directly to S3, and it becomes just an extension, if you will, of your data center. Obviously, in the tape world, you can eliminate tape entirely, potentially, if that's the right model for you, if that's what you want to go after. And then you have highly durable, highly available storage in one location with the S3 platform. And then, of course, when you're talking about replicated storage for disaster recovery, even off-site geo-resilience type scenarios, the breadth of the Amazon regional footprint, is actually pretty broad. So you have multiple locations in the U.S. and then locations around the world that allow you to go ahead and actually target, where you're going to back up or recover to should a disaster occur, right? So you automatically, as part of this, have access to an entire footprint that can be leveraged not only as a backup location or backup storage site, but even a disaster recovery zone. So you get a free DR data center, or at least access to a free DR data center by leveraging this kind of hybrid storage architecture model. Obviously, some of the key benefits, we're always about reducing capital investment. Metered utility. This is a key tenet of the whole AWS platform. You pay for what you use. You don't pay for what you don't use. You don't need to provision up front. So that means that you're going ahead and you're storing more and more data. We're just, your monthly bill goes up, but it's only for the bits and the bytes that you're storing, fundamentally. So It really is much more of a utility style model, fundamentally. And obviously, eliminating the need to purchase ahead. So you're not necessarily every quarter going through a recalculation of how much storage am I going to need, how many more disks do I need to provision. It's really about saying, oh, well, I'm just going to store this much more, and S3 will just grow with me. So there's a great opportunity there to reduce at least some of that provisioning, pain that you're dealing with today. And of course, from a pricing perspective, our prices fall over time. We've had 19 over the entire platform. We've had 19 price reductions since we started providing AWS. So that's just sort of a general model that Amazon continues to follow, is actually to continue to drive out inefficiencies to drive costs down throughout the whole platform. From an operational perspective, obviously reducing footprint is going to reduce overall burden, in terms of what you have to care and feed, the servers you have to go after. So there's some opportunity there to actually take people that are focused on that and focus on higher value, efforts as opposed to, lower tier storage, for example. The reduction of systems, and then you can focus on innovation opportunities as opposed to just maintenance opportunities, right? You can change the focus of the people that are there today to really go after the new stuff, and really innovate as opposed to just carrying and feeding of drives, for example. And of course, from a business perspective, the capacity just keeps growing with you. So you don't need to think about, how am I going to constraining yourself or being constrained by, capacity capability, in existing footprint. You can actually grow with that. So what that means is, you can go ahead and do more R&D, more experimentation. You can create multiple copies of data sets and large scale data sets, for experimentation purposes that maybe wouldn't have been possible in a fixed footprint, storage capability. You can actually really sort of think about, hey, I might double this up. I can, double up my data set, for a couple of months, do some experiments on it, and then just just throw away that second half after I'm done with it. So because of that metered opportunity and the fact that it grows with you, you can really experiment and try different things and innovate there. And basically it's all about not stopping the pace of innovation, right? It's all about, if this scales with you, it grows with you, that means that, as you try and experiment and do different things, you feel like there's nothing stopping you, at least on the storage front, to expand and grow, your capabilities without having to really spend a lot of time provisioning or planning around that. So one of the key things that I think is another side benefit, we talked a lot about, this is obviously mostly focused around the storage platform. But fundamentally, once you're on that storage platform, a whole bunch of other opportunities really start to make themselves available, right? So as I showed up front, AWS is not, storage is one of our core tenets, but it's not just about storage. There's a whole bunch of other capabilities. So, if you look at it, there's a whole bunch of ways you can go just from starting to use S3 to really starting to use that whole platform. One of the key pieces is moving into sort of the managed database space. We talked about this unstructured storage around S3, but there's also structured storage like RDS or DynamoDB, our NoSQL offering. And it gives you the opportunity to move into whole new capabilities by starting with that storage migration. Another key piece is, let's say you put your storage, you backed it up. How about content delivery? How am I getting that to the edge? So we have a whole edge caching network called CloudFront with, I believe, it's about 30 POPs around the world now. So you can actually edge cache that content, get it out to your customers faster from a nearer location. And that's something that you can enable with a few button clicks through the management console once you've got that data inside of S3, right? So again, another quick opportunity to move from that core storage platform to an edge caching network. Obviously we talked about direct connect up front. That's a way to drag a physical line directly into the data center. That's an access point that's available to you as well. Some new networking opportunities to make AWS appear as part of your near infrastructure with a managed network connection. And then workflow comes up a lot in this type of scenario. So I've got data in there, but now what about ETL processing? What about collaboration platforms where I'm coordinating and managing that data across multiple consumers around the internet? We have workflow services that allow you to go ahead and you could have maybe the data in one point, but you could have some processing on your site, some processing on a customer site, some processing on a third party, and all that can be coordinated through a workflow engine or platform that AWS hosts as well. So lots of opportunities in that space as well. Analytics is another key area where we're seeing a ton of movement, whether it be just the storage of data as data warehousing, but on top of that, even our Elastic MapReduce engine. So that's Hadoop-based cluster processing. So what it allows you to do is take that data that you're now backing up and then go ahead and run analytics on top of it. you quickly can spin up a cluster of tens or hundreds of nodes to process off that raw data, and then turn around and actually do some analytics on top of it, stuff that maybe you don't have access to or availability in your current footprint. So another key benefit of being inside the AWS platform is access to that whole capability. Discovery through our new cloud search capability, storing that metadata, providing indexing capability on top of that, so you can quickly find information within S3. You can actually store and actually store the metadata with our search platform, and then we can go ahead and provide you a quick way to find and access all that storage you've placed up there. And then, last and certainly not least is DR and compute. So, this is another scenario we see as a really big win for many enterprises. They're looking for an inexpensive way or a cheaper way to do disaster recovery. Well, once all your data is being backed up and stored with S3, you can spin up EC2 instances or compute instances on demand and have a complete disaster recovery site that's entirely dormant at zero cost until the disaster actually occurs. So you have that capability baked into there once you start leveraging that storage platform. So this is really how, using S3 with many of these storage appliances gives you access to completely different storage strategies, but even completely different, application architectures over time. Hybrid models that allow you to extend your existing footprint into the cloud.